Horsepower, Chrome, and Rust, covering car culture and the automotive world with Brady Wright and Steve, the producer, Johan. Let's see what's up this week.
We know what's up this week. Everything in the universe is up this week. I can't believe that it's Tuesday, June 9th already.
9th, I can't imagine.
Barely into the year, and all of a sudden it's June. Brady Wright, your host, Steve, Johan, the producer, joining millions of listeners on this 140th episode.
Isn't that amazing? 140
of Horsepower, Chrome, and Rust.
Wow.
We have actually something to commemorate our 140th
What's that?
episode. Well, I'll get to it in a minute,
Okay.
but it is going to be cool. We are still on iTunes and iHeart Podcasts and Spotify, and of course we're on Podomatic.com, where we are in the top 10 of all the automotive podcasts. We should make mention of that. Thanks for liking and following our Facebook page, and for all the rest of the shows. And Steve has promised me, without fail, that soon, all our video shows will be on the
Actually,
on the net.
I just finished up the last one, and it will be up.
If I
but I'm
bug
going to
him,
actually do the one before that, and then that'll go up.
right. If I bug him about it, he will
Yes.
eventually do it. We have guests in the studio tonight. The video is up. Sitting immediately to my left is Elton Roundhill from E-Company Customs. We'll be talking with Elton in a little bit. And across the table is Ron Foreman, the president, founder, and head cook and bottle washer of the Rad Bastards Car Club.
That's right.
In Gold Bar, Washington. So, yeah, we got a whole bunch of stuff to do. But first, as usual, we are going back to the blacktop because Steve has grubbed around in the bottom of the garbage can in his garage and found some cool stuff to talk about. I have no idea what it is.
Well, not that old. It's actually more up to date than
Is it?
grubbing around. I have been grubbing around in my garbage can and my garage. Actually, I was telling Ron before the show that I'm slowly moving stuff out of my garage to make room for when I start restoring the car. But the problem is with the COVID shutdown and all that crap, all of our stuff now is just piled up in there, and I can't get rid of it because you can't take it down to Value Village and all that. And I got.
In other words, your garage looks like everybody else's garage on the planet.
But my shed now is in a lot better shape, and it's getting closer to being able to store all the parts.
That's a good thing.
It comes off the car, they'll go in the shed.
Perfect.
And my wife says, well, how long do you think it's going to take? I go, honey, this is going to take years. And she's like,
you're not shining it on. I'll have it done this weekend. No, years.
Years, honey.
Years.
She's like thinking my sons are going to leave before I go, they'll be gone probably before I'm done, but they'll come over and help out.
They'll bring the grandkids.
Well, I came across this. One of the possible fallbacks, the fallout of the COVID clampdown is electric cars have been placed on the back burner as government subsidies will be pulled back, as well as plummeting oil prices. So you've got the combination of, gee whiz, we don't have those extra monies to put into electric cars like we did before, give you credits, and, geez, the price of oil has just plummeted down to nothing. So it's going to be
so
a while.
Who cares about electric cars?
Well,
let's drive
be
those
honest.
gas guzzlers. Yeah.
I'm going to follow up because there's a lot of things tonight about electric cars. GM CEO recently stated it will take decades before they adapt to the battery-operated cars, as they have so many models of which ones will work best, which ones allow them to stay profitable. And since this lets take a further look at our electric Bronco guy, because we had a guy on a couple.
Right. That was very cool.
That was very cool. But he's very limited, very focused.
Well, he does one model.
One model.
Yeah, that's a whole different
and
thing.
He's got a long laundry list of people waiting, but he'll
so
do
they're
just
talking
well.
10 years maybe.
At least.
Now, I would like to call back your attention to our 108th show, wherein I predicted, ladies and gentlemen, at that point that it was going to be at least a decade before electric cars were even remotely ready to go.
And I think we all kind of agreed.
Oh, yeah.
Well, here we go. Nikola.
I knew it.
The Nikola, the aspiring battery electric hydrogen fuel cell truck maker, which now I have lost a lot of respect for, just debuted on the NASDAQ last week following a reverse merger with its stock quickly taking a lift.
A reverse merger?
Yes, because this is how you do it. Now, get this. The $34 billion market capitalization, in quotations, Nikola is forecasting zero revenue for 2020 and is planning to make its first $1 billion maybe by 2023, even though it doesn't even have a fully utilized Arizona assembly plant that they don't expect to build until 2028. So in other words, this is all floating money, magic money out there. They haven't even produced a vehicle. They haven't produced a profit.
So my question on this whole thing would be, where do you have this much money laying around that you can afford not to do anything with it, to commit it, but not to get any return for 5 years?
I have a quote that I designed.
You designed a quote?
Well, I actually invented a quote.
Okay.
Number of years ago. It's called "Stupid Money Does What Stupid People Does." Because when you make your money basically on the stock market and you literally didn't work.
Yeah, of course.
And you have someone like a Mark Cuban who basically built a little product, sold it for over $1 billion. It wasn't worth $1 billion, but the buyers at Yahoo thought it was.
Yeah.
He is now immediately worth $1-something billion.
Sure.
Did he earn that?
Well,
sorry.
It's good timing.
It's timing and understanding the market.
It's timing, but all these guys that put all this money into these things literally make all their money off of hedge funds and investments, and literally it's like money they made from throwing a crap at a crap table and making $1 billion. So they don't respect it like I do.
If I ever have $1 billion, that's how I will make it.
Yes.
It's not going to be from anything I invented because I think I'm past that.
But we could go on and on, but enough of that. So here is another one.
Okay.
Skeptics like me have long questioned the market value of Tesla, which has yet to post annual profits. Again, if they were not subsidized, they wouldn't be around.
Well, yeah.
And you could say, well, they make great vehicles. But you know what? I think we could put together a team and create great vehicles. As a matter of fact, Elton will talk a little bit about it later. He does great custom work.
Well, sure.
And he makes a living. But no one's investing billions of dollars into his business to make.
Well, but I mean, in all fairness, I mean, you can have a custom shop, you can have a fab shop, you can have, an R&D shop like the electric Bronco guy. But the truth is, Tesla is a manufacturing concern. They are producing a vehicle, and like you say, they are heavily subsidized. And if they had not been,
they wouldn't exist.
They wouldn't exist because not that many people would have bought them up front. Now
That's
they got,
right.
Is there 4 models now? Is there 4 models of Tesla?
3, I think.
Well,
I don't follow.
Are we counting the truck?
Well, we're not counting the truck because they haven't.
That's right. So there's 3.
Not fully released yet.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
But what I'm saying is it comes back to the very beginning up here. If it wasn't for the fact of being subsidized, these guys wouldn't be around.
And the point I was going to make was they are the most well-known and foreground of the electric vehicles. So nobody's really making
there's
a dime
several
off of this.
others have already had $5 billion infused and have yet to even put out a car.
But haven't sold a car. Yeah, that's
right.
That's the problem.
So as it is, now let's change the subject because we could be pretty heated about that.
Absolutely.
I am very heated about it, but I think
on.
electrics work really good for street cars, and they did until they were all yanked out of the street.
Well, I don't know.
Remember, Seattle had electric buses.
Well, we still got the Link. The Link light rail's electric.
Yes. Well, yeah, and that's where it works. And
it's a train.
Exactly.
Sure.
That makes total sense. It's on a track. It's got power, and it's not battery. So anyway, now, good news, Jaguar Land Rover. Well, actually, this is not good news because Jaguar Land Rover is the latest automaker to look for additional credit to help it get through a sales downturn. It is securing a $705 million line of credit from a group of Chinese banks. Now, the difference here is they are going out for credit and you're getting a loan. And when you get a loan, that means the bank owns part of your assets. So if you fail, they can get them back. Unlike Wall Street money where everybody goes, we're going to invest in, and you may not make anything. The original investors make all their money back that way. Now, here's another one.
Then they liquidate your company.
That's right. Interestingly enough, as we all know, car dealerships have been pretty much shuttered except for a little bit of online sales. And one company, Todd Caputo's Sun Auto Group in upstate New York, has, of course, shuttered its things. But it's turned to online sales, and it says even after everything is said and done, he'll probably stay with a lot more of that model and half or a third of his employee base.
Oh, yeah, the overhead's got to be a lot less.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave Smith Motors has been doing that for years, and they sell a ton of cars
That's
that
right.
way. Yeah.
So it's changing the terrain of dealerships.
No doubt. Hey, thanks for tuning in. We are going to come back on the Windshield View. We got the head honcho of E-Company Customs, Elton Roundhill, and Ron Foreman is going to be with us, too. Stick with us. We'll be back.
Hi, it's Jeff Conwell with the Monsters in Manson, giving a big shout-out to everyone at Horsepower, Chrome, and Rust.
My mind out of gear, and my heart's in overdrive. I've everything to fear. I ain't never been more alive.
Thanks for tuning in. Coming on the Windshield View, we welcome the head honcho of E Company Customs, Elton Roundhill, to Horsepower, Chrome, and Rust. So, Elton, good to have you back in the studio.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, you bet. It's been a while. You were one of our early guests.
I should point out at this point that Elton, this is our 140th show.
Yes.
And
right.
it's appropriate that we should go back to the very beginning because Elton was our very first in-studio guest.
Yep, hard to believe.
That's right. And he doesn't look a day older.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
And we have the same haircut, so it's all good.
I'm glad to see the radio show has had the success it's had. You guys have done a terrific job with it.
Thanks.
You know,
and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we've had a lot of
definitely.
really, really cool people on, and you too. No, wait. So when we first talked with Elton, you were doing E Company Customs, and I don't want to say you had just gotten started. You hadn't. You'd been there for a while. But there was a lot of things going on there. You're doing a lot of different projects and things. And as every business does over time, things kind of evolve. You are still turning out some amazing work, if I may say so, and you've got like just a ton of stuff on your website, on your Facebook page. What's going on with E Company these days?
Well, we just kind of been focusing on hot rods and custom builds and even some restoration type stuff.
Yeah.
So it's
having just come out of the 200 years of quarantine.
Yeah.
Right. I
Right.
know you guys weren't exactly shut down,
Right.
but you'd had like a kind of a skeleton crew going on there. How was all of that?
Well, so my guys basically came to me and they had some family members at home that were immune compromised. So they said, hey, can we be laid off, basically. And I was like, well, it would be an opportune time to do it right now, considering the landscape, right? Just a little bit of a lull in work at that time when this whole thing started to kick off. And so I did that, sent them home, and got a chance to have the shop all to myself for about 10 weeks.
That's kind of cool.
They're lucky they came back because I mean, I don't know. It was at one point, I was kind of thinking, well, this is kind of nice,
Sure.
No,
Sure.
we're back to business now, but I got a lot of work done on my 35 Ford pickup.
I saw it when I was up at the shop the other day, and it's just gorgeous. You can put some pictures of it up?
Yeah, I'm gonna get a little bit further, finish the top and stuff like that. And this thing's been going since, like you said, many years on your project.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought this, did a trade for it in 2010. So 10 years now in the making, but it's not like I've been on it every day. Shop work comes first, right?
Sure.
So
one thing that Elton does that other shops do too, but Elton's pretty good at it, is as you're working on a project, not afraid at all to put, in progress pictures up on the website. People will see, well, this is what it looked like when it came in, and this is how we had to redesign, the quarter panels or whatever else. And you can see raw welds and stuff that a lot of people, they want to hide because, I want you to see what it looks like when it's done.
I've been really bad at that lately. That really means a lot. I get a lot of good feedback when you show that first picture when it comes in.
Yeah.
And then, the progress, so.
We had a guest, Hillary Nowak, out of Ontario, and she is on, I think she's on a number of different social medias, but I see her on LinkedIn, and that's how I got a hold of her, is she posts little videos of just her sitting there sanding away on the vehicle or whatever it is.
Right.
And it's amazing the hundreds of guys that are sitting there commenting on where they're at and, hey, what do you use for this and what do you use?
Yeah.
So this is drawing people from all over the world looking at this, and they like to see that progress. They, the TV shows, it's like boom, 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 and it's done. Whereas in reality, everybody knows it takes a long time to do a car. So again, if you're doing that progress kind of thing, people like that because they go like, hey, I wonder where they're at on that. Oh, wow, look at that,
Yeah.
And, problem, look what we had. We found some rust. We didn't expect this. Back to the sheet metal work.
And that's kind of what me and my guys go by. Like, we're always the student, never the master. We're always out there learning, figuring out different things, and that makes us better. So,
This way, that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of student and master, you were telling me earlier in the week that you just got some new hotshot tool up there that you're kind of looking forward to playing with. Is this thing?
I just got it operating yesterday.
Did you?
So it was for sale up in Bellingham, and Greg Gott with the Gott rod. Yep, Joe's Racing. he sent me a message. Hey, check this riveting machine out. Well, I thought it was way smaller.
Yeah.
space is limited.
Yeah.
So I go up there, and this thing's massive. It's an old Boeing machine.
Oh.
It's made by a company called Zephyr, and it didn't operate very well. So I said, well, I'll still buy it, but I'm not going to pay full price.
Right.
So I got it for like $500.
Wow.
I pull the switch off it. I get the serial number, and Zephyr's still in business, right? So I call him up, and he's telling me everything it can do. And he goes, "Do you mind if I ask what you paid for it?" And I go, "Well, yeah, I paid $500, And he goes, "Holy!" He goes, "You got to be kidding me!" He goes, "You hit the jackpot."
The Switch is $500.
He goes, "Yeah, we're selling these right now, same model and everything, for $38,000 plus shipping." I go, okay, well, cool,
Right, that's a score.
But mine's from 1980, barely used,
Right.
So I'm planning on making some bomber seats. Right now, I'm looking at tooling to make like certain size rivets. That I'm not going to buy all the tooling; it's very expensive.
Right.
So if I can get a couple rivets that I really like to use,
Yeah.
and some dempling tools, then we're in business.
Now,
You
what
got
is
bomber
it?
seats in that COE of yours, won't you?
yeah, and even just our work. Like
Yeah.
I love the World War II aircraft panels.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can just you can make them
So is
whatever
this
you
for
want.
metal or for what? What are you
Well,
talking
so
about?
basically anything. Yeah. So I'll have. I think they're magnesium rivets. So I work with very soft aluminum. So
Right.
the hard stuff that's for aircraft would probably blow them out.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if I use magnesium rivets, I found out then I'm able to, just kind of make stuff that's structural for automotive. So
Cool.
Wow.
yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's gonna be. So I'm looking forward to that.
So it gives you a unique opportunity to do some stretch your wings and try different things.
Absolutely.
That-
The fine detail stuff. Let's say you want a center console that has some rivets, some detail in it.
Right.
That'll just be in one more, avenue. No, you don't need this kind of machine to do rivets.
Right.
People have been hand bucking rivets for years,
Yes.
But I'm a sucker for big machines, I guess. It's just,
Well, you got
my
the
shop's
lu-
filled with them.
you got the
You
louver
are.
machine.
You like it. The older,
Yeah.
the better.
Don't
too.
you have
yeah.
two
Yep.
English wheels?
I have two.
Big
Yeah,
old
yep.
welder. Got
Yeah,
this
one's
giant
an Imperial
welder thing.
wheeling machine that I
Yeah.
found on a Connex box in Spokane, and then
Yeah.
the other one I made. So.
And the louver machine. Let's not leave that out. I mean,
Oh
that's-
yeah, right. Yep. Louvers.
That's big
I got
fun.
4 different types of louvers now.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
And
you
then
make the aluminum panels for that electric car you were talking about, Steve.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Well, the guys we had on, he does just wonderful work in his the shop. I'm looking for it really, Adam Rowe. And what's interesting is they do Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
But they completely fabricate these things. I mean,
Oh,
they
really?
take them, they strip them down, they refix them.
67 through 77
yeah.
Bronco.
Oh, okay.
So
Just
it's the single most
beautiful,
popular.
beautiful.
Where are they
old-
out of?
Out of California?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And-
Ontario, California?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
fuck
but
it.
when
Cool.
you say the center console and stuff, they
Mhm.
do all this stuff, beautiful,
Yeah.
shiny
Yeah.
metal, just beautiful stuff. And I know you would do that. Kind of like
All
that's,
electric.
Yeah,
Yep.
but it's all electric. And
Wow.
what's cool about it is you guys are all handcraft kind of guys. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
I've ever met, whether it was like Sugar Bear up on the wall there
Mhm.
in the motorcycle realm or the car guys, the more hands-on you guys can be, the happier you are, aren't you?
Mm.
Yep.
Absolutely, and that's why I got back in the business. I mean, I didn't get back and start the shop till I was 38 years old, but I kind of look back now and think, God, I could have been doing this my whole life.
Right?
But you got to go full circle sometimes
Sure.
to figure out what's important. So
Well, and what kind of feeds your soul too? You
Right.
don't necessarily do things just for money. You do it because it's something you enjoy.
right,
And if you can do both, well, win-win-win.
It's
Right.
called success.
Yeah, no
Yep.
kidding. And
Well-
plus, you don't mind spending the long hours at the place,
Yeah.
all by yourself, alone in the dark,
Yeah.
in your shop.
Yeah.
In the dark.
yeah,
This is my machine.
it doesn't feel like work,
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, a while ago, I think we talked about it on the show, but I can't remember for sure. Elton decided that he was going to build a motorcycle out of a bunch of pieces and parts that he had in the shop,
right?
and the motor was a motor, Yamaha or Triumph.
It's an XS 650 Yamaha.
Okay.
Yep.
So I had one. I should remember that, but
Oh,
it was 76, 78.
yeah,
mine
that's
was.
about. I think the
Yeah.
first year might have been 77
Yeah.
or something.
Anyway, so you decided you're going to put all these things together and make yourself a chopper out of it, and we're talking handcrafting here. This is where I'm going.
Well,
The
you're going to
gas
have to
tank.
go on the other
Oh,
side
I'll get
because
there.
our break's coming up.
That's okay. We'll get there. I can walk right up to the break without any
Okay,
issue
you
at
got
all.
you got to really walk out up right now.
I can
Now
no-
he's really
no
late.
problem. So, but the gas tank is what I
Yeah.
was talking about, and
Right.
I know you found an air tank and everything, but
Right.
we'll talk about that when we come back. We are with Elton Roundhill of E Company Customs and Ron Foreman of the Rat Bastards Car Club. Windshield View will be right back after these words. I want to go to Vehicle City. That's
Yes.
what I want to. This is the second half of the Windshield View. It's Horsepower, Chrome, and Rust, the greatest automotive podcast in the known world.
I think so.
We humbly
Definitely.
agree. Our guest is Elton Roundhill of E-Company Customs and Ron Foreman of the Rat Bastards Car Club. And before the break, we were talking about this cool chopper that Elton built out of pieces and parts. I was gonna, since we were talking about handcrafting, I was gonna ask you about the gas tank. You literally found this thing. Was it an air tank of some sort? I can't remember.
Yeah, so over here in my neck of the woods in Linwood, there was an old timer that was closing up his business, and he flew missions over Germany in a B-17.
Yeah.
And so I got this cool bomb winch from him and an oxygen crew tank
There you
from
go.
a B-17, and it was just, I got two of them. I got a big one and a small one.
Yeah.
And I kept looking at the small one thinking, is it wrong if I want to turn that into a motorcycle tank?
No,
I know
it's
it's
not
been
at all.
done before.
Sure.
I'm not sure. I don't think I'm the first one.
Right.
But it looked really cool on the bike.
It did.
It worked. I modified the frame so it could fit. And then I had to switch out my carburetors, which didn't allow that tank to fit anymore. So
Oh.
it's currently on the shelf. It's
That's
still.
all right.
It was cool while it lasted.
Can
I did ride the bike, with it on
Can you
there.
cut out the bottom and kind of fit it around?
Well,
them?
I
You
did,
did.
but the McCuney carbs, so the
Oh,
original ones
yeah,
that are
they're
vacuum slides on
yeah.
those
Yeah, they're tall.
XS650s,
Yep.
well, they don't have the same. They don't have the cables coming out the top. So as
Right.
soon as I switched to McCuney,
Yep.
then VM94s is what they are.
And they go straight back, if I remember
The
right.
cables
or-
come straight out of the top, which was right where the tank
Right.
was at.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, this is game over. So I got to go back to the little tank that everybody uses from. Well, actually, I got mine from Lowbrow Customs, who I love Lowbrow.
Yeah. Was it a peanut tank or a Sportster tank?
This one's called the Axe.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically
Yeah, yeah.
reminiscent of what they would make in the 60s when they
Right.
would just
Yeah.
cut out the middle and put the ends together.
Right.
Yep.
And then, but I modified mine so it's sitting a little higher because I had to make it fit that frame
Yeah.
of that B-17 tank. So it's even more raked out. So it's a pretty steep chopper and a lot of fun to ride.
Oh,
Fun.
that is cool. That
Big
is cool.
fun.
Yeah.
Big fun. And when there's somewhere there's pictures of it. I know you had them on your page for a while. I think I
Yeah.
pirated a couple.
Now,
of
how
them
often do you ride that thing?
I just rode it Sunday, but I'm still tuning up the carbs. So
Yeah.
I just got a 5-gas analyzer so we can start tuning up carburetors.
go.
It's kind of embarrassing to build a whole car and say, oh, you got to take it somewhere else and have it tuned up. So
Yeah.
we
Now,
have, we
is
have that
that-
capability.
Is
now.
that got the points and condensers, or does it have the electronic ignition in that?
So another name drop here. So Hughes Hand Built
Okay.
makes a whole entire ignition system for the XS650, which changes all the problems that were those bikes
See,
were
I had a
fraught with.
78, which
Man, it
had
really wakes them
the
up.
points in the condenser and all that, and
Mhm.
I had to change them out all the time. 79, they went with the electronic. So
Right. Yeah.
literally 1 year later, they went with electronic. So yeah, I know all about that. I kept points and condensers and brushes with me in a little bag, and
Oh, yeah.
kept it underneath the
in
the
a
tool
coffee
thing.
can
Yes.
in the garage.
No, I kept it with me because I had to
sure.
change them on the road
On
quite
the
a
road,
bit.
yeah, every day.
I heard that's what WD-40 was invented for. Those
I'm
caps,
sure of it.
getting moisture out of the caps
oh,
and stuff like
absolutely.
that
Yeah,
in wartime.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So now, what are you? How many cars have you been able to kick out on average? I know you've got a smaller crew now.
That's a tricky question.
Because most of your cars that I go into, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's sitting over there. But you, as I've talked with other builders, have said, it's like a month-by-month payment plan. That most of them don't have the big ticket money
Well,
where they can just roll in and say,
There's
get her done.
exactly. So there's two different factors that affect a build. One is the condition it comes in at, as. We'll sometimes even convince customers that maybe this isn't the car they should build.
Oh,
If you're gonna invest money and you're gonna get more bang for your buck out of spending $5 or $10,000 out of and getting another one. Most say no. They would rather, they're so in love with the vehicle they have, and I understand that because this is an emotional business, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah.
And then the other one is, their wallet. So, if you're in there and you're paying all the time and you're the front man, you're going to get paid more attention to. That's just how it works,
Sure.
And if you're in there and you want to slow it down, we can slow it down. But not so much where I got to charge for storage. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We have to keep some sort of activity on the vehicle.
Right.
So, but and not to trash any of the guys in the dry parts of the state,
Yep.
in the desert, but the vehicles they get, don't have the issues we have up here.
Oh,
so
believe
they're
me,
able to
my
make
El
these-
Camino's full of
Right.
Yeah.
They're able to make these beautiful rat rods with this original desert-worn patina.
Right.
Right. With just mechanical, basically putting it together.
Right.
They're not having to start, with
the ones over here have moss growing in the door bottoms and stuff. Yeah.
And it's still not like Michigan or anything like that where they're really bad,
Right.
but we're about somewhere in the middle, I'd say.
Yeah.
Well, and I it was funny. There's a show called they're called the Rust Brothers, and it's on Netflix, and it's funny because they're up in BC, and it rains, and then it doesn't, and I'm like, same thing. They got the floor pans rusted out, the back panels rusted out. I'm like, that's like my El Camino.
Right.
You sits out without a cover or isn't. It's going to rust. It's just the way it is of those 60s cars, 50s cars, 70s cars, 80s cars.
Right.
Then they got really good with the seals. But prior to that, you're dealing with a lot of rust around here, and it's not like the car is broken or anything. It sits there.
Something that's interesting to me, though, is I remember my dad had a bunch of old cars. He's a body man. And I remember seeing the same rust when I was like 10 years old that I'm seeing now. It's like once they reach a rusted state.
Yes.
Sometimes it just kind of holds, because it has a drain hole now, right?
Right.
So it's not holding water, and I feel like that kind of something, I don't know if that's,
well, it stays.
Or not, but
it could be.
It stays in one area. Enough to make that hole. And then, now, Ron, you've got a rat rod. Does it already have holes in it? Or did you kind of get rid of it?
There's some bullet holes in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I fixed most of the rust out of it.
Now, did the bullet holes, does that come when you were just having a bad day?
No, they were when I got the car. The dashboard I got out of the bank over in the sunny side of the state over in Yakima. It was sticking out of the side of a bank that we were using for landfill. A bunch of cars.
Cool.
And I just kept pulling on that dashboard till I finally got out of that bank, and that's what's in my car now. And then there was some bullet holes in it. Somebody used it for a target.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah, banks in the middle of nowhere. It's great for plunking. That's a piece of metal.
Nothing like a patina bullet hole. I love them.
I left it.
Cool.
So now, you're working on a shop truck right now, and what year is it again?
So this is actually a 35 Ford pickup.
Okay.
I chopped it 3 inches.
Okay.
I did a whole bunch of modifications to the chassis. Looking back, I would have just built a new chassis, but it's the original 35 chassis from the rear kickups forward, basically.
Okay.
And yeah, so my grandpa actually flew 35 missions over Germany in a B-17 as well. And it's a 35, so I'm going to name it after his airplane, which is Blues in the Night.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's going to be navy blue. I got the navy blue interior, and just on the hood sides, it'll just have a little Blues in the Night there.
Okay.
And I told him about it. He's 90. He's going to be turning 97 August 1st.
Wow.
And
he
goes,
thank you for his service. Be sure to tell him thank you.
I will definitely tell him.
Yeah.
And every time I talk to him, he sounds better and better. I don't know what he's doing, but.
He's looking for seeing that truck.
I know. That's why I have to finish it. The pressure's on. And
see, my dad's 93.
Okay.
So, and he was in World War II, and he came in the back end of it, and your dad was probably in the front end because he was 4 years ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So he was on the earlier side. My dad came in later, Philippines, and then the cleanup in Japan. But so that's really cool. You've got a connection there with your grandfather that you're able to carry into the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because we had Art Morrison on, and it's like, well, why didn't you just go with an Art Morrison? But it's like, you're a hand guy.
Because those chassis are $18,000. That's
right.
There's that.
And is that part of it, or is it you just want to tackle it and just do your own thing?
I've always just done my own thing. I'm not. I don't really actually know people in my industry very well, except for ones that maybe I look up to their metal shaping or some upholstery work or something. There's people that I follow. But I've always just kind of, gone my own way, and I kind of find that, great minds think alike. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, well, it turns out my idea was good because this guy's been doing it for years or whatever. Yeah. But I also feel like sometimes you can pollute your own mind with somebody else's take on something.
Right.
Sometimes it's just to start, start fresh with your own idea, Not always, okay, but, a lot of times.
You said something a minute ago I wanted to ask you about, because a lot of shops have things that they specialize in. There's certain areas of work that they will do and some that they, are going to farm out. But I think it's maybe fair to say you're kind of a full-service shop. I mean, you will do mechanical, you'll do fab, you'll do paint. Mm-hmm. You've got a full-bore upholstery thing. Yeah. I've seen a lot of your work, and it's pretty darn nice. Is there any kind of work that you really do want to send down the road?
Well, you mean as far as like just using other people?
Plus
services.
Well, like for example, Ron, he's got a 55 Olds that is in the process of needing a wiring job.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And so it's maybe just that. Would somebody like that? I mean, you do something like that as opposed to sending it to an electrical guy.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I'll take on piecework and stuff like that. The only thing I don't have a paint booth, and I don't want a paint booth. I don't want the regulation. I don't want the trouble.
Yeah.
So I leave it up to the paint guys and the body guys, and I'll have a conversation with them like, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is the metal finish you're going to get. And then so far it's working out great.
That's
so
cool.
Now, how far?
That's actually smart.
So when you're doing that, how far will you go with the body work before you send it off to the paint guys?
I am a Bondo-free zone. Okay. I do not allow Bondo in my shop. I have actually a wall of shame. Stuff we've cut out, and you can't believe
I do.
The artistry and the craft that people will go through. And it's actually... It says a lot about how they feel about their vehicle. They love it so much they're willing to put chicken wire in there, and sometimes I'll see there's stuff the spreader in there too. Might as well get that in there.
Now, listen. I have some rust areas at the rocker panels on my El Camino.
Yeah.
And when I was still driving it, knowing that down the road I was going to restore it, I took and ground that area out, and I put in a panel behind it, did a little of this, and then threw some Bondo over it and smoothed it out.
Right.
So it looked good, and then I just did a quick rattle can black because it's that black bottom of the El Camino. But there was never the intention to leave it that way.
Right.
I remember, excuse me, I worked with a guy back in the early 80s, and he had gotten an El Camino, and he was going to flip it. That's what he did. There was a big chunk, and he just threw some chicken wire in there, did it over, and there we go. And I'm like, how can you live with yourself?
Well, but the thing is, too, is that some people don't really want that long-term investment, and that's fine. There's plenty of shops that'll put the holes in and spread the Bondo in, but I'm not one of them, you know what I mean? So, but, I can make things more economical in certain ways, but I just can't put my name on something like that,
right?
And it's been done, and sometimes it holds up for way longer than you think.
Oh, yeah.
But if you spend that much money, like let's say you want a $10,000 paint job, which is probably going to be a paint job without any sort of cut and buff, it's going to have orange peel. 10 grand, still 10 grand, and you're probably going to have some blistering happen. I don't know. It could be 2 years, could be 8 years.
Oh, yeah, we see these little things.
That stuff even happens with factory paint, though.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my coworkers literally yesterday had the roof on her Honda, and not a very old Honda Pilot.
My Honda.
Just pop and literally kind of come to pieces overnight.
Wow.
And like they do. I mean,
mine did that within
fails,
3 years, my brand new
But
Honda.
it's incredible. The prep, when you pay for a paint job,
yes.
you're not paying for the paint, you're paying for the prep.
And I'm not knocking anybody who uses body filler.
Sure.
I think that it's a good tool to use, and it has its place, and so there's a lot of guys out there that are so good at it,
So you'll take
nice
so then that back to me, the question was, so if you don't do body filler and you've got it all down, do you do the primer, or do you just send it off to that shop and let them do the whole primer and everything else?
So right now they get it in bare metal, so
okay.
they can do basically a high build primer, block it out, or whatever they need to do to get that level, whatever that customer's looking for, because we basically have a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 price bracket.
Right.
Yeah.
$30,000 is going to get you pretty much a show car.
Right.
With this shop that I'm using. So it's kind of nice to have those just kind of rough numbers so they know what to expect. And, this depends on what you want. So
right.
That's an interesting trio of figures.
It is.
Because one of our good friends locally has a 37 Lincoln Zephyr that she's been pedaling around to all of the car shows.
My favorite car.
Yeah, it's a beautiful car. It's a kit. I mean, it's built on a 74 Lincoln chassis.
Oh, okay.
But it's a beautiful car. And it was painted like a creamsicle. It was orange.
Yes, it is.
Orange and
not anymore.
Cream. And she took it down to Gene Winfield in Mojave and had him paint it.
Nice.
And it's 5 separate colors, purple fade.
Wow.
It's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous.
But Gene is not
Cheap.
10, 20, 30.
Okay.
Gene's north of that. I'm pretty darn sure.
30, 40, 50.
I'm sure that he's, and I didn't
sure.
ask her,
Right,
and she'll tell me if I do. But it's like,
well,
that's
Gene
a
probably
lot.
has those old lacquers left over.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
he does.
You know he does.
Yeah,
he's out there in the
does.
middle of nowhere doing what he wants.
Sure.
He has all the good stuff.
Yeah, he's out in the
And
middle of
he's
Oklahoma.
96 or 97, and he painted it. He painted
So
it.
I took my guys to a class down in California.
Yeah.
And the class kind of fell apart, and the guys were I'm like, hey, do you guys want to go to Pomona? There's a Pomona swap meet and all this.
Yeah.
So we're walking around the swap meet, and I look up, and it was just surreal. here's Gene Winfield.
Yeah.
You know, riding bike. Hey, I'm like, hey,
That's
you know,
the guy.
how's it going? You know, it was really cool. So,
Very cool.
really need to see him in person. Nice guy.
You know, and you say it's kind of like my dad's 93 and he's putzing around. He's got his assisted living he lives in, but he's got his own apartment and he's still doing thing. But some of these guys, we're going to get another guy on. He's a former drag racer. He's still running his shop, late 80s. And I find when people have an attachment and they really are involved, it's inspiring.
Yeah.
They stay young. Because you're involved. You don't want to, you're like, this is what I love doing.
Right.
Amongst other things. And it gives them life.
When I'm having a bad day and I'm feeling sore, I'm like, oh, man, I think about those guys. You know, because, I mean, they weren't complaining.
No.
I can't remember the guy's name. Bill, his first name was Bill.
Bill Hines?
Bill, the chop guy.
Mm-hmm.
Man, and he did that until he fell over.
Right.
Smoking cigars and climbing around those
Absolutely.
cars. And, man, I mean, the Hero How to Merc was one of his pieces. It just...
They're legends, absolute legends.
Because he just would plain do it. And he was, apparently, he was kind of cantankerous, but he was a really nice guy. If you came over and said, can I watch? Heck, you can cut here, do this, you know.
Yeah.
What a deal.
Very cool.
Hey, you're listening to the greatest automotive information show in the known world. A cool hot rod story you can share with your friends is coming up next. This is Horsepower, Chrome, and Rust.
And the Horsepower, Chrome, and Rust.
You like my spitting gasoline there? It's time for Cars Confidential.
Please don't spit gasoline.
And we're back with another story from Lance Lambert. What do we got this week, Brady?
This week from the ever-popular and vaguely familiar Fenders, Fins, and Friends, Confessions of a Car Guy. I got a one that actually I picked it because it made me think about Ron.
Yes.
Ron and I took a ride about a year ago across the pass to go to the Rat Rod show in Manson, and it was raining and it was lovely. And Ron has a marvelous 31 Ford. It's a terrific hot rod, but it doesn't have a roof.
Or windows.
Or windows. It has a windshield.
It's a true rat rod.
It is a rat rod, and it's a beautiful car, but it was cold and wet, and we had a great on time. And the thing that, you know, there's no stereo in there because he has a motor.
Right.
And the rumble is the music
like
of the
road.
road.
I beg to disagree. It has dual exhaust, and they're wide open headers.
That's right.
Stereo.
It's the music of the road. I'm telling you. So the story this week is called Remembering the Rumble, and that's why I picked it.
That's great.
So here's Lance and his kiddom, basically. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon, and I was doing what any normal 12-year-old kid would be doing, watching cartoons. Suddenly, the world outside sounded like it was exploding. The windows began to shake, and my heart began to race. This was no lawnmower motor starting up or a neighbor using a chainsaw. It sounded more like a B-29 Super Fortress getting ready for takeoff. It was the most beautiful sound in the world. Lan has a way with words. I jumped up from the couch. I ran to the door to see what was causing a minor earthquake on my street, and there, before me, rumbling down the road, was a real dragster. It was a real dragster like the ones in the car magazines that were traded amongst my car-crazy buddies. This dragster was long and lean and sounded mean and had Snoopy 2 painted on the sides. The exposed Oldsmobile engine had 8 exhaust pipes pointing at the sky and belching out fire and smoke. The long metal tube frame with slicks on the back and the skinny tires on the front, along with a very high horsepower mill. It meant that there was only one purpose for this vehicle: traveling 1/4 mile in the shortest possible time. Go for it, Lance. This was 1960 when a good dragster traversed 1,320 feet at 125 miles an hour and a great dragster at 175 miles an hour. Don Garlitz, perhaps the most famous drag racer in history, set the world's record in 1960 at a speed of 195 miles an hour. It's scary to think of how fast they go now. It's just frightening. Previously, the most exciting thing that had ever driven down my street was a neighbor kid's go-kart that was powered by a McCulloch chainsaw motor. My friends and I envied that lucky kid for having the coolest go-kart and the coolest dad in the neighborhood. He dropped down one rung on the coolness ladder when this real fire-breathing rail job came slowly rumbling through the neighborhood. The sight was unusual and unbelievable, but there was right there before my eyes. Seeing Snoopy 2 sauntering down our street was an amazing sight. A little investigation revealed that it was in the neighborhood being worked on by the chainsaw-powered go-kart pilot's dad.
Oh.
This put that kid right
Interesting.
back up to his former spot on the coolness ladder. No doubt the Snoopy 2 is long gone, but it will never be forgotten by this car-crazy kid. Now, I like this story.
Yes.
And I say it reminded me of Ron because of our ride in his truck. But what I wanted to do was ask everybody, when's the first time as a kid that you heard a motor, something like that, I mean, what's the one that really grabbed you?
Well, I grew up because my neighbors, the not the Glucks, but the Mike and Jim Vosbecks, they had hot rods.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you how many hot rods they had, but they were constantly working on them.
But was there one that really grabbed you?
No, because there were so many.
Oh. Well, see, I can tell you the exact one that got me. It's why I became a car guy. The next door neighbor behind our house, kind of, we're on the corner and the guy faced the other way. He had a wooden garage, a single car garage, and this kid was about 6 years older than I was. So as a 12-year-old, it's like, he was a cool guy. And he had a 37 Chevrolet sedan, and it had, I don't know what it had in it. To this day, I don't know, but it was hotted up and, hot rodded, and he had straight pipes. And he was in the garage tuning it up. And all the rest of us kids were standing there watching because it was cool. And he was using the famous and often used stick on the gas pedal to hold it at middle idle so that he could adjust the idle on the carburetors. And, of course, at 3,500 RPM or 4,000 RPM, the thing sounds pretty cool. I mean, It's like just, and we're like, wow. And then, of course, as luck would have it, the stick slipped and the thing got floored, and he floated the engine right through the hood.
Oh, wow.
And we stood there and went, wow. we didn't know
that
it. And
could
of course,
happen?
Yeah. And we all learned a whole bunch of really cool Anglo-Saxon words that day that we had never heard before, but he was apparently quite fluent in that language. And it took him a long time to rebuild the car, but even though it blew up, I went, that's cool.
Wow.
I want to learn how to do that. Not blow up the car, but fix the car.
My Uncle Leonard had hot rods. He's our neighbor with my grandma. He lived with my grandmother and grandfather, and he had a 57 Chevy, two-door Bel Air. It was the copper with the white top.
Oh, right, yeah.
And he traded it for a 1966 Corvette Stingray 427.
It's a good trade.
That thing was loud. He'd open the headers on that. He took it down to SRR and raced it, and he won. I don't know what he won, but he had a trophy that was like 5 feet tall.
Wow.
That's cool.
Funny story is he would not let his brother, my other uncle, Donald, drive it one day, and he got mad and he put his foot through the door.
No.
Because he wouldn't let him drive his car. And I said, whoa, Uncle Leonard.
Fiberglass door. Well, he put it through a different door, not the car door.
The
car door.
The Corvette car door. It's
Oh,
fiberglass.
wow.
He kicked the door and put his
Well, he
foot
couldn't
through
have
the
taken
door.
it to Elton to fix because Elton doesn't do fiberglassing. No.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, I'm sure. So what about you? Is there one that stands in your mind?
Well, I remember being, probably 4 or 5 years old, and it was like, I think it was the Northwest Nationals.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember how I had like an incredible Hulk wallet, probably had a couple bucks in it. And those cars were so loud, I think it.
Oh, yeah.
I remember I dropped my wallet through the bleachers, right?
Right.
Gone forever.
Sure.
Never to be seen again.
Never to be seen again.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, just those things are, they're nasty. I mean,
Sure.
especially
Oh, yeah.
when you're little like that, it just takes your breath away.
Somewhere I've got.
It hurts your ears at that point.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
true.
Hit you in the chest.
It
man,
does.
when they go
Yeah.
by.
Yeah, well,
That's
they don't
true.
call it ground pounding for nothing.
No,
I mean,
that's
there's a
true.
reason. Somewhere I've got a descriptor of what actually happens inside one of those engines in the first 3 seconds of a run. It's fast. I'm going to find it. I'll bring it in next week. That'll be the story next week. I'm going to find it because it is earth shattering.
Well, I know that my dad was very. We had the Holzels up the street, Brent and Mark and the rest of the gang, Mike and his two sisters, and his dad was into sprint cars. Well, he'd come home from work, and then at night, 10 o'clock, rum, rum, rum,
endearing himself to the
and
neighbors.
he's sitting there tuning his sprint car for the races out at Hannigan Raceway, I'm sure. But my dad was like, because it would literally rattle the car, the house. And then the other time was my buddy Mike. He had a 63 Polaris former cop car, I think, but had the 383, and he had just cherry bombs on that sucker, and he'd start at the bottom of the street, and he'd start coming up in first gear, and it literally would start rattling everybody's window. And I thought, that's my buddy. I can't wait. We're going out cruising.
Cool. Setting off their car alarms, right?
Oh, no car alarms in the 70s.
There were no car alarms back then.
My dad goes, is that
not
your
back
friend,
then.
Steve? I go, yeah. And then he comes in, hey, how's it going, Mr. Johan? And then, of course, my friend with the Chevelle, he had the 396, and he had headers and everything. And it was funny because he would leave, and we had this huge, long hill called Mountain View. So he'd leave me off at my house. He'd go down the hill, and then he'd take a right. And then you could just hear him going, shifting gears as he's going up the hill. And I'd hear him until he goes over the crest and off. So I had fond memories. But then I knew all the other guys in town's cars, too. I go, oh, I know whose that is. I know who's that. You could just lay in bed and hear people racing.
A lot of those motors had personality. They did individual kind of signature sounds.
And they had them set up. They had them. Each car was set up differently with different gearing, different everything. And you got to start knowing whose was who.
Well, you always knew a Hemi. You could always tell a Hemi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all in our blood. That's why we have them.
Well, that's why we're doing this show.
That's what I was took the words right out of my mouth.
Yep, horsepower, chrome, and rust. That's us.
That's right.
Man, I know my buddy in high school had a 57 Chevy that was all built, and he, in his senior year, it was the coolest car in school. Everybody loved it. In his senior year, he sold it and bought a 68 Coronet 440. Metallic red with the dog dish hubcaps, but it had that big motor in it. So it was the biggest sleeper in school.
Well, stick with us. We got Nathan Lipinski's weekly trivia question coming up in a peek of next week's show. So put it in park and stick around.
Help us if you can. You're an El Camino. El Camino man. Only you can.
Yeah, we know that Steve chose that record because he has an El Camino. It's the only one
of its kind.
That's right. Welcome back to Around the Wheel. This is where we talk about the upcoming events, the Nathan Lipinski weekly automotive trivia question, of course, and stuff that's happening around the Northwest and the world in terms of the cars. First off, the trivia question. Last week, we had a great trivia question, and amazingly, Nathan Lipinski did not get the right answer. No, Nathan knows everything. He's got the fastest Google fingers on the planet. The question was what company invented not only the first synthetic rubber tire, but the first run-flat tire? What company was it? And Nathan said, well, he thought maybe it was maybe it was Firestone.
Goodyear.
And would have been about 42. No, it turns out, Nathan, neener. It was B.F. Goodrich. B.F. Goodrich, they started in 1896. They had a lot of firsts. So they did the first synthetic rubber tire, the first tubeless tire, first American-made radial tire, first space-saver tire, and, ladies and gentlemen, the first run-flat tire. So we did not allow Nathan Lipinski to win because he got the wrong answer. We, in fact, have a winner in Alice Dash. Alice is from Tyler, Texas, and she sent me an email and said, I think this is it. And Alice was correct.
Cool.
So she's going to get her
Alice.
she's going to get her certificate on the website with the actual picture of the horsepower, chrome, and rust barn find dust, which, as we know, if you take that and sprinkle it over your car, people will think you found it in a barn, and it'll be worth 4 times as much.
That's right.
This week's trivia question is...
It can be featured on a TV show.
You could, yeah. Steve Darnell could make a new car for you. This week's trivia question is pretty cool. It's people. There's a lot of things about Mercedes-Benz, a lot of things that they came in first with, but nobody knows really where the name sort of came from. So there's a guy by the name of Emil Jelinek, and he had something to do with the Mercedes-Benz car company and why Daimler-Benz came up with that name. And if you know what it is, you can send us an email at contact@horsepowerchromeandrust.com. You can send us a Facebook post. You can send a messenger. You can throw a rock through my window, but you'll have to buy a new window. And who knows, maybe next week you win the Nathan Lipinski weekly automotive trivia question. What does Emil Jelinek have to do with Mercedes-Benz? Could be you.
That's a tough one. I don't even have a clue on that one.
Well, I try to find ones that are that. So a lot of times we talk about upcoming car shows, and there have not been very many upcoming car shows because of the 200 years worth of COVID-91 quarantine. But Ron Foreman is, the founder and president of the Rat Bastards Car Club, a new class of old school. It's not what you buy, it's what you build.
Correct.
And I know that the club did a short cruise over to Manson here a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, because there was no Rat Rods and Manson show this year. But we got some other things coming up. And just tell us what's going on with the Rat Bastards this season.
Well, we're planning on doing the Bulletproof show in Centralia.
Yeah. That's a big one.
That's
August 1st, is that right?
August 1st.
August 1st, yeah.
And then they have the drag racing the 27th of August also.
Right.
The Thunder, something to do with the mountain down the Mount St. Helens.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be a good
Mountain
one.
Rumble or something like that.
Yeah, I think Rumble at the Mountain.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. We were talking before the show about maybe putting together a cruise around the Northwest here someplace, maybe taking a run up the Central Plains and stuff and seeing if we could do that. We'll have details on
Highway 9 is you just go all the way
great
up to
road.
the top. To the top of
not a lot of turns
up to Linden,
all the way to Canada.
Well, actually, you go behind Mount Vernon. That whole area behind Mount
pretty
Vernon
windy,
very beautiful in there.
Yeah.
It's just like
quite a few lakes too.
Sijuwuli, that whole area back in there.
Yep.
It's beautiful. You don't even know it's there until you're driving along.
Yeah,
you're
that's
going,
true.
wow, this is a wonderful little road.
Go all the way up to Sumas and then come back around the other way.
Something like that'd be great.
It would be good.
It
We'll
would
have to put that together. If you have an idea of what a cool cruise would be, send it to us in an email, and maybe we can get together a cruise. Because still, in a lot of the counties, King and Pierce County here in Western Washington, they're not allowing car shows, but cruises are different.
Right.
So we'll keep you up to date on that. Hey, it's been a great show. Elton Roundhill from E Company Customs has been our guest. Thanks, Elton, for coming by. That's ecompanycustoms.com. Ron Foreman, of course, the Rat Bastards Car Club. That's Rat Bastards Car Club TM on Facebook. And Steve, of course, has been an excellent producer this week, as usual. I'm Brady Wright, saying keep your eyes on the road, your hands on the wheel, and your foot to the floor. Next week, more horsepower, chrome, and rust.